Next, New Jersey's historic connection to baseball. You may be an all-star player today, but would you even make the cut 150 years ago?
My third game playing for the team, I shattered 2 fingers and hurt a nerve.
Find out what happened in Hoboken that changed this American pastime forever. Also, the Cecil B. DeMille Gatehouse in Wayne and the challenges of living in a piece of the past. Hear why the current owners felt compelled to cut through an interior wall for the sake of history. All that and more on Drive-By History. Made possible by the generous support of King's Food Markets, one of the local top 100 employers listed in New Jersey Business Magazine. King's, where inspiration strikes. Founded in 1936 in Summit, New Jersey, King's has been a familiar and trusted friend to area families for almost 80 years. Through its Act Against Hunger initiative, King's is making an impact on hunger relief throughout the communities it serves, with over 100,000 pounds of food donated each year and countless monetary donations made to those in need. King's is proud to be part of New Jersey's history. Additional funding provided by Barnabas Health, serving more than 2 million patients at facilities throughout the state, including Monmouth Medical Center in Long Branch, Community Medical Center in Toms River, and Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus in Lakewood. When you think of Hoboken, I know what you think of.
Cake
Frank
Boss.
Sinatra.
Obviously, Hoboken has a lot of history.
Well, there's a history marker up ahead. Are you game?
Of course I'm game. How many times have you heard me say, thousands of motorists pass by countless history markers every day and say, one day, I'm going to stop and read that. Well, today is that day. I say that in my sleep.
Well, that game reference, it was a hint.
Oh, I like games.
I'm Ken Magos.
And I'm Cindy Perman, and this is Drive-By History.
Today's adventure takes us to Hoboken, New Jersey, located in Hudson County. Named one of the 10 best cities for new college grads, 20-somethings seek out Hoboken for its parks, restaurants, and social scene. Over 150 years ago, Hoboken was also a popular destination with the younger crowd. And like today, the young who ventured to this part of town were also looking to play. Hey, look in the median.
Oh, there it is.
I see the sign. Let's not get run over. Okay. Baseball. On June 19, 1846, the first match game of baseball was played here on the Elysian Fields between the Knickerbockers and the New Yorks. It is generally conceded that until this time, the game was not seriously regarded. We need to find out more. Let's go talk to Anthony.
Good plan.
All right. Let's not get run over. Doesn't history tell us that Abner Doubleday invented baseball in New York? So why is this plaque here in Hoboken? Well, it's off to the Newark Public Library, where drive-by historian Anthony Bernard has uncovered the facts, as well as the fiction.
We saw a sign in Hoboken that said baseball traces its origins there. Now, I think most of us think, when we think of baseball, we think of Cooperstown, New York. So what's the Hoboken connection?
Well, a lot of people think that baseball originated in Cooperstown, and that is due to what is called the Abner Doubleday myth.
Well, wait a minute.
Myth?
What are you talking about,
What?
myth?
So in the beginning of the 20th century, baseball was incredibly popular in America. And there was a fellow by the name of Henry Chadwick, who was a Brit, who said that baseball is not an American game.
What are you
Not
talking
an
about?
American game at all.
What? No.
He
Wait.
said it was a game based on a British game called Rounders. So he makes this claim, and Americans go nuts. They cannot possibly handle that.
We can't handle it.
Exactly. Your pastime might be British. So what do? They form a commission. And they form a commission led by this man named Abraham Mills. And Abraham Mills forms the Mills Commission. That's supposed to look into and investigate who invented baseball. So the Mills Commission unearths this letter written by a man named Abner Graves. I guess Abner was a popular name.
It's like
at
the
the
John
time.
of its time.
Apparently, yeah.
Exactly. Who claims to have seen the game invented by this Northern Civil War general named Abner Doubleday.
It's the perfect story.
Exactly. There you go. Everyone wins. America has invented the game. Baseball is an American pastime, and
Sounds
there's
good.
no problem.
So we're done
right?
here.
Okay.
Exactly. But there were at least 3 problems, major problems with this story. Problem number 1, Abner Graves would have been 5 years old in 1839, the time when baseball was allegedly invented, that he'd witnessed, 5 years old. Number 2, Abner Doubleday, the putative inventor of the game, wasn't in Cooperstown, not only not in 1839, but ever. He probably never even visited Cooperstown. And the last one, number 3, is Abner Doubleday himself. When he died, in his obituary, there was no mention of baseball.
Wow.
And there
Nothing.
should have been.
He invented something.
If he invents a game that's that big, and clearly by the time he died, it was that big,
I would have ensured it was in mine.
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
would have been some mention of it. So that was the Abner Doubleday myth. And the myth was refuted by newspapers, by a very famous magazine at the time called Collier's. They did a whole expose on it in the year 1909, and they basically completely debunked the myth. And yet, it held to the point where I grew up thinking Abner Doubleday invented baseball.
I sure did.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we all did. So the myth endures even today. And that's where your next adventure begins.
I guess it's back to Hoboken for us.
To better understand the Hoboken connection to baseball, Anthony sends us to the Hoboken Historical Museum. Director Bob Foster explains that Hoboken's role in baseball history has everything to do with people looking for a respite from New York City life.
It was all about open space and getting away from the coal-fired furnaces and ships in New York.
Those large open spaces, combined with the growing appeal of baseball, equals opportunity for Hoboken, especially for city founder and steamship owner John Stevens and his family.
So they had a ferry service, and so they would charge people for the ferry, and then they could say you have open fields that you can play your game.
Stevens' strategy pays. The city's Elysian Fields, so named as an homage to the paradise in Greek mythology, becomes a popular destination. Young men who can't get enough of this fashionable new game called baseball come to Hoboken regularly.
They were all men, and they were in their probably 20s and 30s. Most of them worked in New York. They did not live in Hoboken, and they would take the ferry to get here, and they were usually in the banking industry. They were young urban professionals.
Ah, so this was Wall Street's, you could say, one of its first playgrounds.
I would say that's true.
So, I know a lot of Wall Street guys today, and I know where their playgrounds are. They go to Sundance, they go to Costa Rica. But what I didn't know is back then, their playground was right here in Hoboken playing baseball.
It's these 19th century players who make history. On June 19, 1846, they play ball in an organized match using 20 rules developed by Alexander Cartwright of the New York Knickerbockers. Those rules include the concepts of foul territory, the distance of 90 feet between bases, 3-out innings, 9-member teams with fixed batting orders, and more. It's this structure that gives shape to the modern game.
Bob, so we're looking at a picture of Elysian Field here. So walk us through, describe what we're looking at.
This, I believe, would be the upper field, and so you're close to 11th and Washington Street. Maxwell's Tavern and Pizza Joint is there now, and this depicts a Curry and Ives print, which is from the 1860s, and it's labeled the Grand Championship Game. It's actually not the first game we talk about on June 19th, 1846, but it's from the time period.
Interest in baseball quickly swelled. New teams formed to challenge one another, ultimately leading to organized baseball leagues. As you might expect, crowds grew larger and larger, though the experience wasn't quite what it is today.
And people are simply standing around. No grandstands, no dugout, no fenced-in area.
No concession stand, I'm guessing.
No.
Like we know today.
No concession stand. You brought your own food. There would not have been food sold, at those early games. You might have brought your own bottle with you. And then afterwards you would meet at the Colonnade, a local tavern.
I mean, it's really interesting to learn that right here in Hoboken, just a couple blocks from where we're standing, is where Elysian Fields stood and where baseball really took root. Over the next century and a half, Hoboken and baseball would part ways, with the development boom transforming the Elysian Fields into storefronts and apartments. Meanwhile, baseball would evolve into a modern game played in stadiums by professional and aspiring athletes. Despite the major changes, however, there are some players who shun 21st century ball. For them, baseball remains anchored squarely in the 19th century. We caught up with one of those vintage teams, appropriately named the Hoboken Nine.
We love the Hoboken Nine. It's a vintage baseball team. Captain is Frank Stingioni. And for years, we tried to get a team going. We tried to do it one day a year, recreating that June 19th, 1846 game. It was really hard to get people to do it. And we did a few recreation games, and lo and behold, this crew that had been playing softball embraced the idea of a vintage game with the rules. And they've been playing a game every weekend for the last couple of years.
A vintage game.
A vintage game.
Wow.
And the hard part is finding an open space in Hoboken, actually.
As a vintage team, they wear period-appropriate uniforms and play by the original rules, which are a little harder on the body.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. What is the extra skill level required versus traditional baseball, or modern baseball, I should say?
First, gloves haven't been invented at the time of this game.
So you're literally throwing, everything
This
is catching?
is all I got. But my third game playing for the team, I shattered 2 fingers and hurt a nerve.
Wow,
which
how did that
took-
happen? Walk me through that.
I didn't know enough to use my catching hand before I learned correctly how to play that vintage game. So I got fingers in the way.
The fact that they don't wear gloves on their hands. And they were explaining to me how you break all the capillaries in your hands and you end up building up a callus, kind of like playing handball. I didn't realize how tough these guys actually had to be.
There are other differences too.
That you can catch a fly ball on a bounce and it's an out.
Also, we don't try to hurt each other.
That's a big distinction, right?
Correct. What we also do is we call ourselves out. If we're out and the umpire doesn't see it, doesn't call it, doesn't catch it.
You would
we
never
call
see
ourselves.
that in modern
No,
baseball.
You would never see that in modern baseball.
So tell me a little bit about the ball. Now this is called a lemon peel ball, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now to look at it, is it made of actual lemon peels?
No, it is made of hand-stitched leather, the same as a modern-day ball, except that today in modern day it is stitched with a machine to be much tighter and attain more velocity off the bat. This
So
ball,
the lemon part comes in.
the lemon part comes from the design. If you'd split a lemon to
Oh,
get
I
it a
see. So
lemon,
look
you'll
right
see the
there.
teardrop shape.
Right,
that
it's
it
like a lemon
forms.
wedge I would have in a cocktail. I
Exactly.
can understand that if I have it in a cocktail, the lemon wedge.
Exactly.
So the bat you see in my hands is actually a replica of what they would have used back in the 1840s. This is a vintage replica. It's much heavier than what I'm used to a bat being. The end is much rounder. It's got a completely different feel.
Then there's the hidden ball trick.
Well, the hidden ball trick is that even though the pitcher happens to be on the mound area, a player can hold the ball, and if a runner gets off the base, he can be tagged out.
Surprise, surprise, but we've got an umpire. That's why his uniform's a little different.
You like it?
I think it's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about it.
I just didn't have the schedule to play in the game, so they're like, hey, we need an ump. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And then I saw the uniform and I was like, bow tie?
So you knew
For
that
sure.
this is what the uniform was going to be.
The weird thing is I already owned a top hat.
However, of all the differences, nothing is more immediately noticeable than the polite behavior of the players. That's because in the 19th century, baseball was a gentleman's game and required gentlemanlike conduct. Not only did teams lend players to their opponents, but rather than strike out the batter, the pitcher's job was to help him hit.
In the 19th century, the way the rules were the pitcher's job was just to present the ball to the batter.
present.
Yes. Baseball, when it was first formed, it was more of a fielding game. It wasn't a pitcher-batter game. The pitcher's job wasn't to strike out the batter. Just to throw the ball in the strike zone and let the batter hit it.
This was a gentleman's game. You know, we talk about sportsmanship in sports all the time, but there is a huge difference here in how they used to play gentleman style versus modern day baseball. Today, your goal as the pitcher is to try to strike out the hitter. Back then, if you did that, you'd get the penalty.
As the day draws to an end in Hoboken, it becomes apparent that baseball has always been about the joy of the game. Are the old rules better than the new? Who's to say? Some aspects of vintage baseball, however, certainly warrant reflection. In the 19th century, players were expected to behave with dignity and embrace sportsmanship. If nothing else, that may be a valuable history lesson for 21st century athletes everywhere. Buckle your seatbelt and settle in, because our next adventure begins now. This time, the highways and byways lead us to Wayne, New Jersey. Located in Passaic County, these 27 square miles of rolling countryside and picturesque waterways look like the setting for an elegant literary film. It's the kind of place that would inspire a director to greatness.
Hey Ken, check out the sign.
You're right. Look, it's the DeMille Gatehouse. Wow, this sign is incredibly faded. Okay, this building served as the gatehouse to Pamlico, the 76-acre estate built by Hollywood producer Cecil B. DeMille's father, who first came to Pompton Lakes in 1891. I had no idea. We need to find out more.
Yeah, we do. Let's go talk to
Let's
Anthony.
go.
Cecil B. DeMille was one of the most famous directors and producers in the film business. He's practically synonymous with old Hollywood. Yet his New Jersey childhood must have played a part in his success. But what was it? To find out, it's back to the Newark Public Library, where drive-by historian Anthony Bernard tells us you can take the director out of New Jersey, but you can't take New Jersey out of this director.
We drove by this sign. It's actually really hard to read, but it referenced Cecil B. DeMille, you know, the famous Hollywood director. So I'm trying to figure out, what's the New Jersey connection?
Cecil B. DeMille was one of the first mega blockbuster directors ever. He was huge. He was sort of Spielberg, Scorsese, Tarantino, these kind of directors where...
Right, like we even still say today, like, you know, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up, right?
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. But he's
That's
one of the first names that you remember.
Yeah, the line from Sunset Boulevard. What the thing about Cecil B. DeMille was that you went to go see a picture because he did it. He was famous for his biblical epics. That's what really put him on the map, the Ten Commandments.
Right, we all remember the Ten Commandments.
Absolutely.
And he was also doing epic films at a time when people didn't do epic films. So he was kind of the first one to bring these huge epic biblical films to the screen. So film was new. People hadn't seen these things. And here is this man coming out with these biblical epics, and people wanted to see the Bible acted out.
Coming to life, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Of all of these stories that they had read and they had memorized, or they went to church, and so they knew them, a lot of Americans, but they hadn't seen them actually on the screen. So Cecil B. DeMille, of course, was largely a Hollywood icon. But Wayne has an interesting part to play because this is where Cecil B. DeMille grew up. And this property is where Cecil B. DeMille got his ideas and where he spent time as a boy. And it's just what really formed him.
I was going to say, I mean, that might have been where the ideas for things like the Ten Commandments grew from. That's amazing, right here in New Jersey.
Exactly. I mean, this is the place where he was formed, basically, where his ideas came to form. So Wayne plays a big part in this Hollywood icon. Now, the mansion in which he lived as a boy was torn down. However, the gatehouse remains. So the people that live there are stewards of history, and I have made arrangements for you guys to go inside.
Excellent.
So you're going to get to see it.
I can't wait to see it.
So we get to see a piece of history from the inside. That's fantastic.
From the
Maybe we'll get an
inside.
idea for a major motion picture.
It's back to Wayne for a rare look inside the privately owned DeMille Gatehouse. But before we step inside, Carol D'Alessandro of the Wayne Historic House Museums meets us on the property to give us a little history on the estate itself.
So, Carol, we're looking at a picture of what the house that stood here was like. Describe to us what we're looking at and what would have been here compared to what we're looking at now.
Well, on the 76 acres, there were 3 buildings, and the biggest one was the main house that you see here. And it has very pretty turrets, several. It has a wraparound porch. But when you look at the picture, it does look like a few houses glued together.
Yes.
It's got different roof lines.
The gatehouse was built in the same style, and though it's a private home today, when Cecil B. DeMille and his family lived here, it served a different purpose.
Now, I'm curious, what would a gatehouse have been used for?
That's a very good question. I know that the part you see there that's an archway, people would drive their, well, horse and carriage. And the gatehouse, I guess, was just probably to announce to the family who was coming in or comings and goings.
It would have been this big?
It has not changed. The people have told me the footprint of this building hasn't changed.
Although the mansion was later dismantled and the land sold for development, the gatehouse withstood the trials of time by being converted into a single-family residence. Current homeowners Mike and Mary Ellen offered us an exclusive look inside their historic home.
When we bought this house, this particular room, I had a vision for it. It was just a dirt floor.
Was there walls when you bought it?
There were walls on this side, but there were no walls on either
The
of
portico.
the other sides
Yeah.
through the portico. We believe that when people came to visit the DeMilles, the horses were probably cared for here.
Or went through here.
All right, so that's our belief, but we wanted to finish it off. We just thought the stone and the warmness of the room was extraordinary. And we maintained that stone and mortar and made no modifications whatsoever. The ceiling is exactly the original. I sanded it all down, and I wanted to paint polyurethane, and my wife Mary Ellen said, no, I like that worn, rustic look.
Yeah.
So we were able to maintain that.
Good call.
I have to go with Mary Ellen on this one too. Yeah.
No, and I do too when
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, now that you see it, it's
now,
right
now that
there.
I see it, you know, and so I wanted a little bit of a cleaner look, but I absolutely love her choice.
It takes a special family to own a historic home, let alone one with a history marker in front. Fortunately, Mike and Mary Ellen are well suited for the task. Their commitment to preserving and restoring the integrity of the now famed DeMille Gatehouse has been nothing short of tireless.
When we were taking off the aluminum siding that was on the home, we wanted to see what was underneath, and it was clappered, but it was beaten
Yeah, it was
completely.
too.
There were holes in it, there was rot, etc. But what we tried to do was get a siding that exactly simulated the width, the look, the depth,
Yeah.
the clapboard that was there. There was also some detailed fish scale running around the house, and
Yeah.
we did the same with that. We simulated that detailed fish scale accent around the outside of the house as well.
Even windows were replaced with historic authenticity.
And the windows, all of the windows were diamond panes, and we tried very hard to get the exact shape of the diamonds that were there, and we were unable to, which I was really upset about. So
We got close.
we got close, but in our family room, we actually cut a hole in the wall between the family room and the front porch and installed one of the original diamond pane windows, so people could see always what those diamond panes look like.
Cut a hole in your house
Yeah.
just to display one of the original windows.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
it's-
amazing.
Well, we wanted people to see the craftsmanship, the work. You know, the glass is a little wavy. You know, that kind of
It's
stuff.
that old wavy glass.
But people
that you
will
don't get
always
today.
know what was in this house
Yep,
originally.
yep.
It's a reference.
So-
That's phenomenal.
This couple even sacrificed modern conveniences to make sure the home's integrity remained intact.
Well, the bathrooms are small.
Yeah, very small.
Very small, but we wanted to maintain, you know, some of the original elements of the bathroom. In fact, Mary Ellen was very strong in working with our architect and our contractors in maintaining some of those elements.
Well, so what did they want to do that you said no to?
Well, we have a slipper bathtub upstairs, cast iron slipper bathtub, and they wanted to take that out and have a walk-in shower, you know, like the new walk-in shower. And I really said absolutely not. You know, that was one of the original things in the house.
It's been such a pleasure meeting with a couple who are so committed to maintaining the historical integrity of their house. They're living here in the Cecil B. DeMille Gatehouse, and even though there are no restrictions on what they can do to the house, their personal commitment is to maintaining its authenticity at all times.
Now, I'd imagine with the sign out front, do you get people stopping by curious about the DeMille connection?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had people come up asking if it's a museum. You know, they'll see the sign and they'll say, "Do you live here? Can we just come in?" And that's happened a number of times.
And so how do you answer?
No.
Across his long and storied career, Cecil B. DeMille made more than 70 films, winning awards, accolades, and audience affection. Part of DeMille's fame stemmed from his commitment to telling stories as authentically as possible. How fitting that decades later, homeowners Mike and Mary Ellen are telling the story of DeMille's childhood home in much the same way. See you next time. Made possible by the generous support of King's Food Markets. King's, where inspiration strikes. Founded in 1936 in Summit, New Jersey, King's has been a familiar and trusted friend to area families for almost 80 years. Through its Act Against Hunger initiative, King's is making an impact on hunger relief throughout the communities it serves, with over 100,000 pounds of food donated each year and countless monetary donations made to those in need. King's is proud to be part of New Jersey's history. Additional funding provided by the Puffin Foundation, continuing the dialogue between art and the lives of ordinary people. Barnabas Health, serving more than 2 million patients at facilities throughout the state, including Monmouth Medical Center in Long Branch, Community Medical Center in Toms River, and Monmouth Medical Center Southern Campus in Lakewood.